Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and you're all very welcome to our 22nd webinar in the Irish BioEnergy Association BioEnergy webinar series. My name is Sean Finan. I'm the CEO of the Irish BioEnergy Association. I'll be the MC for this morning's webinar. This morning's topic is focused on community energy, and we showcase a platform called the One Stop Shop to assist community energy projects. Before we begin this morning, just a brief introduction to the Irish BioEnergy Association. We were established in 1999. We're the representative body for the Irish bioenergy industry on the island of Ireland. Our work covers the areas of biomass, biogas, biofuels, biochar, wood fuels, and energy crops. Our main focus is on lobbying, policy, lobbying, and advocacy. And we're also involved in other areas, including knowledge transfer and providing information on the bioenergy sector. We have a broad and diverse membership, and we're involved in a number of research projects, including the Wood Fuel Quality Assurance Scheme, the EIP Small Biogas Demonstration Project, and our Interreg 3C project. You can find out more on our website, www.erbia.org. Just to remind our attendees this morning, this is the 22nd webinar in our series. Over the last year, we have covered a variety of topics across all the bioenergy areas, so varying from district heating to the bioliquids, biogas, biofuels, and indeed more broader topics on European policy and Irish policy. So if you would like to go back and look at any of our previous webinars, you can find all the recordings on our website. If you would like to get involved in the webinar series, feel free to get in touch with myself or Teresa O'Brien, and we will be able to include you in our schedule and discuss your potential topic. My own contact details are also available on the screen for anyone that would like to contact me, and we are open for new members if you would like to join the organisation or get involved. This morning's agenda will hear a presentation from Annie Duffy, who is a research assistant with the Munster Technical University, and then we will have a panel discussion. And joining us for the Q&A will be Dr. Martin Hill, who is the Head of Department for Electrical and Electronic Engineering at the Munster Technical University, and Stephen McCormick, who is the Project Executive of the Irish BioEnergy Association. Feel free to post your questions and answers through the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen, and we will endeavour to answer many of your questions as possible. Just a reminder about our next webinar, webinar number 23. It takes place on Wednesday, the 16th of June at the same time. So our webinars take place fortnightly. And the next webinar will focus on the role of bioenergy in delivering the recently published 40 by 30, which is a 40% renewable heat target by 2030. Full details will be published through our social media channels in the coming days. And we would like if you could join us on that particular morning for our next webinar, as it is a very important area, and certainly bioenergy has a huge part to play in delivering on our renewable heat targets. So briefly, just to introduce this morning's topic, as I said at the start, we'll focus on how we can assist community energy projects with online tools. One such collaborative tool is the One Stop Shop. So Annie will outline the particular scope for enabling bioenergy projects, assisting the sector's growth by developing public recognition and also trying to get buy-in from stakeholders, and what are the supportive policy measures that are required from government. So the digital one-stop shop aims to provide all resources for community energy projects to be able to address some technical and organisational barriers that might hold them back at present. And it provides a space as well for connection and collaboration and sharing knowledge and experience. And participants of the site can work collectively to foster the growth of community projects on both a national and international scale. So we look forward to hearing about the platform from Annie during her presentation. So to introduce Annie, is a research assistant in the Munster Technical University, working as part of the EU Interreg project ECHO. Her current research is involved developing support tools for community projects, specifically a maturity scale for ongoing projects to assist with their progress. She completed a research master's in University College Cork, where she investigated the use of digitization to improve the energy efficiency of manufacturing processes in a medical device facility. We're also going to be joined, as I said, by Dr. Martin Hill, who is the head of Department for Electrical and Electronic Engineering at Munster Technical University Cork campus. And Martin's current research projects are investigating control systems for large-scale renewable energy sources and new models for PV inverter integration on large-scale grid networks. Martin's involvement through the EcoProject and has been involved in development of the support tools for community energy projects, and also has other research areas and interests in engaging citizens in the energy transition. Stephen McCormick is the RBA project executive. He holds a bachelor degree in energy sustainability and the environment from IT Sligo, and he holds a postgraduate diploma in environmental management. Stephen's focus in RBA is on the Interreg 3C project, which is developing circular carbon economy through the development of value-added carbon products and services based on biochar and carbon feedstocks. Previously, Stephen worked with the Western Development Commission on the Redirect project and also the Blue Circular Economy project. So that's the introductions to our speaker and our panelists and our topic this morning. So it's now time for me to hand over to Annie Duffy. We thank Annie for joining us this morning to give her presentation. So if I could ask you to share your screen, Annie, and I'll stop sharing now. Okay. Thanks, Annie. Over to you.
Thanks, Sean. Okay, so can everybody see my screen?
We can't see it yet now.
Can't see it yet. Okay, apologies.
So you might have.
Oh, sorry. Skip the crucial step to share.
Oh, it's sharing now, yeah. And if you go to presentation mode, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so thanks very much, and thank you for that introduction, Sean. And thanks everyone for attending this morning. I've been to a few of these RBA webinars and they're always really interesting and insightful. So I hope we can keep up that high standard this morning. So before I get stuck into the rest of my slides, I want to give you a brief overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. So I'm going to briefly touch on our climate objectives. I don't need to spend too much time talking about this. I'm sure you are all familiar. And I'm going to present a solution to this decarbonisation as community renewable energy, particularly the role of prosumers. So a prosumer is someone who consumes and produces electricity to and from the grid. And this is crucial when we talk about the future electricity grid. We talk about it being distributed, scalable. We can have small scale energy plants owned by communities or cooperatives, and we have the policy to support this in the Renewable Energy Directive. But there's several challenges that need to be overcome in these projects, and what we present is a digital platform to help overcome to help provide solutions to these challenges through knowledge sharing and support mechanisms, and we call this the one-stop shop. So we want to understand how we use the digital era and the digital tools to best support knowledge sharing. It's particularly prevalent, we've all moved to digital working and virtual working, so how we can make the best out of this. And we want to create this platform with a user-centric perspective. We want to understand the requirements of the end user, and particularly people in RBA as well. So the prototype that we have is the product of several iterations of development, and it's continually evolving, and we're currently in a testing phase as well. So getting started then, again, speaking to the choir, I don't think I need to spend too much time explaining this. You're all aware with the policy and guidance to decarbonise. Ireland in particular has set out very ambitious goals of decarbonising at 7% per year, which is a really huge undertaking. And to put that into perspective, the year 2020 saw emissions reductions of about 5.9%. And that was in the midst of a global pandemic and stay-at-home orders, basically mass shutdowns, and we didn't quite make it to 7% then. So it really just goes to show the scale of the problem at hand. So what solutions do we have to manage this and achieve this decarbonisation at this huge rate that we've pledged? Well, we have electrification, energy efficiency, striving for carbon neutrality, including closed carbon loops, and renewable energy generation. So renewable energy generation can be small to large scale. Again, I'm sure you're familiar, reduces our dependency on fossil fuels and can be used to decarbonise certain sectors. And this generation can be owned at a local level and provide future opportunities in demand side management for microgrids that can be set up as virtual power plants for flexibility at peak times. And the projects can become a shared project, creating this concept of community energy that provides electricity supply and a range of other social, economic and environmental benefits for the area. So just to clarify what I mean when I talk about energy communities or community energy, I've taken this definition from the Interreg policy brief, and it defines renewable energy communities as those which involve the generation of energy from renewable resources and technologies which are partly or wholly owned by local communities. And as highlighted here, this is a flexible definition, and it recognises the range of models that can be used, including cooperatives, social enterprises or partnerships. Now, community energy is great. It brings a whole load of benefits to the area. It gets people involved in the energy transition, increasing local knowledge. And this can be used to overcome resistance to these renewable energy technologies. We've heard of NIMBYism, not my backyard. People tend to kick up a fuss when there's wind turbines being installed. So being involved in these projects can really overcome this resistance and help to allow this technology to flourish. Additionally, the community energy projects can help us achieve our climate action objectives, working towards this decarbonisation at 7% that we talked about at the start, and other targets, including the Paris Agreement and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So community energy can have a really positive impact on local areas, providing roles, funneling profits back into the community, and sometimes even providing jobs for local citizens as well. But it's important to remember that the acceptance and support of locals is really crucial to the long-term success of these projects. And enabling people to identify their local needs, marrying that combination of tacit local knowledge with renewable expertise to create these solutions. Ireland already has infrastructure and policies in place to support the growth and development of these projects. We have the Sustainable Energy Community Network, which is the SEC network from SEAI, the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, if anyone isn't familiar. And this network enables people to form local groups to engage with the energy transition. And I've included this map on the left, which shows the number of projects in each area. Each blue bubble with a number represents the number of projects, which is huge, and it shows the vastness of this network, and it's continually growing. I'm sure this map could probably be out of date by now, and there's probably a few more groups, so it's fantastic. We also have communities participating in the Renewable Electricity Support Scheme, the RES auctions, which kicked off last year. We had 7 successful community projects involved in that, which really shows the potential for these groups. And we've also seen a public consultation on a microgeneration scheme, which will enable groups to get paid, groups or individuals to get paid for their excess energy produced. And to really hammer home the potential of these prosumers that we talk about, the locally owned community energy, I have included some graphs from a report put together by the European Renewable Energies Federation in collaboration with Greenpeace, Friends of the Earth Europe, and rescue.eu. This was produced back in 2016, and this report demonstrates that half of all EU citizens could be producing their own electricity by 2050, meeting up to 45% of the EU's energy demand, which is huge. And again, just to reiterate, as we move from fossil fuels towards renewable energy, we're also shifting from this centralized market that has the utilities at the center to a more decentralized network where people have the ability to produce their own energy and help manage demand. And this report outlines that without these energy citizens, these prosumers, the transition to 100% renewable energy system just simply will not be possible. So this is where the EcoProject comes into it. So ECO, ECCO, stands for Energy Community Cooperatives. And the aim of this project is to prove that community energy is beneficial and to aid with the development of policy to help these groups grow and just facilitate their continued expansion and growth. So the project has partners in the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, France, and the UK. We have a range of organisations. We've got academic institutes, we've got local authorities, regional development authorities. Sorry, I've just realised, can you guys see is that in the way of the screen?
No, we can.
Green, okay.
We can see it, Annie, you're fine. Okay,
I apologise. I thought the cameras, the little boxes were blocking my presentation.
No, we can see it perfectly. Thank you. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll get back in. So you can see we have a range of organisations, including academic institutes, local authorities, regional development authorities, community energy groups, and community energy support groups. And these organisations, the partners in the project, are engaged with community groups, engaged with developing projects, developing supportive tools, and measuring the socio-economic impact of these projects and groups. So MTU is one of 2 academic institutes, and the collective function of these institutes is to take the learning and expertise of our partners and create frameworks that can disseminate the common success points for each new each new community energy group coming forward. So we have several tools. We've got the greenhouse gas tool that we've created. We have a finance guide put together by Marburg University, and MTU has been responsible for delivering the one-stop shop that we're here to talk about today. So the EcoProject has assisted with the development of 176 community energy projects across the partner countries. Of these projects, we have 7 beacon sites, which encompass wind power, hydroelectricity, biomass, and solar PV energy. And we use these beacon sites as examples of thriving community energy projects that show off what's possible and can be used as inspiration for emerging groups to see, it's worthwhile, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I wanted to focus particularly on 2 of the beacons, which are bioenergy projects. So the image on the top right is from Bocholt, which is a municipality in northeast Flanders in Belgium. And this town has built a regional circular economy system using bio-waste as fuel that provides heating for a kindergarten, a primary school, a secondary school, a community hall, and an agricultural test centre, so a really significant network. The fuel consists mostly of municipality hedgerows that are coppiced annually by local farmers, and this is a really fine example of a coordinated effort that manages landscape and also uses this for heating supply. And the image on the bottom right is from the German municipality of Oberosfa, which is a small town of just over 800 inhabitants. And the cooperative built a biomass heating plant on a local district heating network that became operational in 2008. So in addition to heating supply, you can see from the image here, a photovoltaic rooftop on the biomass plant generates clean electricity that can be used for fueling the plant or sold back to the grid for extra revenue. And this biomass heating plant in the photo here provides warmth during the winter months, and then basic heating during the rest of the year is provided from an anaerobic digester that's owned by a farmer nearby. And this anaerobic digester, this biogas plant, generates electricity and feeds the exhaust heat of the generator into the local grid for the cooperative. So these 2 communities are really fine examples of local people coming together to investigate what their options are, to contribute to climate protection and make the best use out of their resources. So again, the EcoProject, we're focused on support, knowledge sharing and development tools, and that's where the one-stop shop comes together. It's the embodiment of providing support, knowledge sharing and these tools to help projects throughout their development process. And overall, the EcoProject aims to track project growth using data analysis and visualization to track their impact, use this as evidence to prove that the concept is beneficial, it's worthwhile having, enable policy measures to continue the growth of these groups, provide more grid availability and allow groups to sell their excess energy on the grid to create profit for their local areas. Now, while I've talked about the benefits, there's, as you would expect, there's barriers to these projects, and which can be challenging to manage for groups. And these barriers include a lack of knowledge or technical expertise and unsure of what the next step should be for the project to progress. Additionally, most groups are run by volunteers and it can be difficult to organise meetings that fit everyone's schedule, or as members usually have full-time jobs and other commitments. Finance can be difficult to raise funds for feasibility and development studies, and there's a certain level of risk associated as well. And additionally, getting grid connection can be really tedious and costly endeavour, and it can limit the scope for projects. And this is where the one-stop shop comes in. We've designed this platform to offer all of the necessary information and resources needed for a community energy project to help groups and individuals. We strive to offer a structured support system to underpin the development of groups and projects. And we believe this site may also positively influence groups to get involved and have individuals getting involved by providing a dependable network of knowledge and experience to draw upon as needed. And it's important to consider as well, being involved in this site may raise awareness of climate action objectives. Active engagement can influence behaviour, and people have been shown to, they're more likely that they'll participate in sustainable behaviour when there's a perceived expectation to do so, when they're part of a community that's actively involved in it. And so we want to use the one-stop shop it's a digital platform, and we want to use it to provide all necessary resource for these projects in a way that's really easy to navigate and easy to find the right information. And another important thing to note here is that a lot of projects, other projects, their outputs are websites or brochures that either get like forgotten about or end up like dying essentially after a while. And we want this one-stop shop to become this sustainable, dynamic resource that hosts all of the information and all of the knowledge from various projects for groups to make best use out of, essentially. So it's designed to be a space where groups can find guidance and advice in their project, with more experienced groups perhaps providing advice and highlighting common issues that emerging groups should be aware of. We want the site to ease collaboration between communities, building communication between people, projects and interests, promoting this concept of vertical and horizontal engagement, and building an online community of communities and have established groups, again, supporting emerging groups. So the one-stop shop is facilitative to helping groups understand potential challenges and gain insight into how these challenges may be managed by learning from the experiences of advanced projects. And moving on, sorry, so there's 4 main parts to the site. So we have the community space. This is where people can communicate between users, other participants, either privately within groups or publicly to the whole site. And this is where we got the terminology LinkedIn for community energy. So we want to enable people to find experts in different countries from different regions to help them with their project and really share knowledge and expertise. We also have a resources page that has links to relevant resources. These are internal and external to the EcoProject. And we're hoping to include any relevant piece of documentation to assist with groups, again, in this dynamic library that makes it really intelligent and present the most relevant information to you based on information you'll provide. So we have some custom built tools that are designed to help projects throughout the development process, and they can be used to guide groups perhaps when they're unsure of what next steps they should be taking. We also have the greenhouse gas calculator, which helps people understand the impact on emissions of their projects. And finally, we have a forum space, which allows users to ask and answer questions and seek help on different topics they may not be sure about. So what makes the one-stop shop different to other traditional social networking sites, such as LinkedIn or Facebook, is that it encompasses the social aspect of community energy, and you can see that in the community and the forum spaces, but it also joins this with project-specific information and guidance visible in the resources and the tools that we've provided. So the whole one-stop shop goes beyond providing an inter-community forum to provide project-focused resources that enable projects to grow. So just to focus on one of the tools that we've created, it's a maturity matrix based on the timeline shown here. So this timeline was created by our French partner, and it's used to describe the 6 development phases of a project, all the way from awareness to operation. And you can see we have 3 pathways here. So we have group, technical and financial pathways or activities, which describe everything involved in a project. So we've taken this timeline and broken it down into steps to create a survey with multiple choice answers that we use to determine what activities have been completed by a project, and then we can figure out roughly what stage of development they're in. So I've included this example here. So this is a wind project, just to explain the point. So you can see they're about halfway through the process of finance. They're a little bit behind on terms of technical activities. It can take a while to get those things up and running, and then they're pretty well progressed in terms of group. But overall, the project is about halfway through the process. So we can use this to direct them to different masterclasses or tools or resources that we have available within the EcoProject at that stage that are most relevant to them to help them on to the next step. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take you to the site and show you the different features that we've talked about so you can see what I mean and understand how it works and how it looks. So this is can I just check actually everyone can still see my screen?
Yeah, we can see the Eco website, the welcome to the one-stop shop, yeah.
Great, okay, excellent. Great, so this is the landing page, this is the home page of the website. So We've included some statistics here just to show that it's an active site. We have people engaged and involved, and it's in use at the moment. We have some fantastic videos as well. I'll invite you later on to watch these. They're really great, and they give a bit more information about the site and about the timeline that I mentioned there. We've got links to different parts of the site, the forum, the community resources, and the tools that I've mentioned. And then we have some statistics about our EU targets for greenhouse gases, renewable energy, and energy efficiency, and information about our beacon sites. So just to remind you, the beacon sites are examples of thriving energy communities that we use as inspiration for emerging groups. And as well, we have a lovely map here to show the spread of the beacons to explain where they are located, just for people to see. So I'm going to move on to the community page. And this looks a little bit like what Facebook used to look like a couple of years ago. We've designed it so that it's intuitive and people will hopefully know how to use it without too much training required. And you can see this is our news feed. It's called a stream here. You can see the different activities from our participants. And I have set up an event for this webinar this morning just to show that we're active, we're engaged on the site. So I'll move on and explain the groups. So this is where we talk about providing the opportunity for private communication on the site. So you can set up a group for your community energy project, and you can invite whoever you want. You can only invite certain people if you want to, or you can make it open and public and share updates. But it provides a space where people can go to share maybe reports from feasibility studies or updates on plans with the other members of the community group. And we're hoping that this will become valuable as you not only have the opportunity to communicate with people outside of your project, you have the opportunity to stay in touch with people inside your project. And we also have showcases. And while they're a little bit similar to the groups, the showcase pages are essentially like an advertising page for the project, and it gives a little bit of information about what they're up to. The beacon sites are all listed as showcase pages. We provide some information on the background of the project, maybe some information about the structure and financing, and then how they came to be successful. So again, this is all about knowledge sharing and providing inspiration for groups, particularly emerging groups who might feel a little bit overwhelmed at the start of a project. We also have the resources page. So we have some resources available. We're hoping to expand this and create the lovely dynamic library that will present the most relevant information to you. And we've got some links to associations as well. And again, these are all Irish, just because that's what we're familiar with. And you can see our BIA is mentioned as well. But we're hoping to expand this with country-specific information to cover all of the countries where this is relevant. So this is a work in progress. Just to bear that in mind. And we have some information about the community virtual power plant, which we're also aligned with through Interreg, if you want to learn more about that. So what I'm going to do now is jump actually and just show you the forum, and then I'll go back to the tools. So the forum, it's pretty standard internet forum. We've got some subtopics for different renewable energy technologies, and this enables people to ask questions, pose a query to the community and see if they can get a response. And we also have a space suggestion box if there's anything you think that we need to think about, add there, and a little folder for bugs and issues as well. We have a fantastic development team that are working to make sure this platform runs as smoothly for all the users as possible. So there's several tools listed here, but the one I want to focus on at the minute is the progress tool. So this is the maturity matrix that I explained to you, and I just want to show you it functioning really as it does on the site. So I've set up, this is just an example project that I use just to articulate how this works. So if we go to the survey, you can see that this is a list of questions with multiple choice answers. These are color coded in the different pathways that we talk about: people, technology and finance, group, technology and finance, the same things from the timeline that I showed you. And if you have multiple answers, so you just tick what's applicable. You tick to say, yes, I've completed this. And for each one that you tick, you get awarded a score. And then we use this score to calculate what percentage of those activities you've completed. And we have these fantastic task lists here. And I always think of these as to-do lists. They kind of show a project, what they've done, and maybe what they need to focus on next. And the really nice feature that we have is that we can, again, bring you back to the timeline and show you at what stage of development you're in. So I'll just show you this for the people or the group tab. So if I'm clicking on this, I'm in the timeline, and I can see that I'm in the emergence phase. So I can also see, I can see this is where I'm at, and I can make use of these masterclasses. There's quite a few in that list. Wow. So I understand where I'm at in the timeline, and then I get given resources that are relevant to that phase. So it's all about understanding where a project is and then pointing them in the right direction. So we're all about trying to help people and facilitate them moving along the development process. So that was a very quick run through, and I would really encourage everyone to take some time, get onto the site, get registered, and get familiarized with the different features that we offer. So the one-stop shop, this platform that we're talking about, it reflects the convergence of the Green Deal and the energy transition. It's a digital resource that enables the growth of citizen-driven sustainable energy projects. And we're hoping that we can use it to analyze the content, understand what's the most useful resource for groups. We hope that the platform itself will help more ventures develop and can increase the spread of local renewable energy generation. And it's a platform that we're hoping it will enable participants to collectively work together and foster the growth of these projects, both nationally and internationally. So how can this assist with the bioenergy sector? Well, I hope that you can see the opportunities this site offers in terms of helping bioenergy grow. We believe it can assist with public recognition, increasing knowledge and interest in opportunities, encouraging buy-in from stakeholders, and supportive policy measure from the governments. Can we expand the content on the site to include the various aspects of bioenergy? At the moment, we only have one use case for the timeline and the maturity matrix, and that's based off our partners' experience with wind projects. So it may not be completely accurate for a biogas or biomass project, and continuous improvement of the site is vital, and this is where you guys come in. So the one-stop shop can help you and other interested parties and equip them with the appropriate resources to partake in their own renewable energy endeavour. We can help to build this community of communities, increasing local knowledge about bioenergy, sharing expertise and ideas for project opportunities. And through that, we can help promote this alternative income stream for agriculture, promoting rural development and employment, and year-round employment to provide the indigenous feedstocks that we need for bioenergy production. And increased bioenergy production can help towards decarbonising heat, electricity, transport and agriculture, which is key, the crucial objective at the end of the day. So the one-stop shop has been tested within the EcoProject, and it has been well received so far, with particularly positive feedback from rescue.eu, who are a major cooperative representative group. But this doesn't mean that it's useful yet. This is a research project. We're interested in learning what the impact of new features will be and how we can improve them. So the site is currently built on the knowledge and experience of the EcoProject, so we want to have other groups using it and to understand their requirements. The main point of the testing phase over the next few months is to understand what we should stock in the one-stop shop. We have a reliable platform. We can use it to trial various content at the suggestion of end users. So is there anything we're missing and would be worthwhile including? So we're interested in having participants from a range of renewable energy sectors, and the bioenergy space is one that we're looking to expand on. So if you're interested in the one-stop shop, I would really encourage you to watch the videos. I believe Teresa has a link that she can post in the chat for you to get to the link to the videos on the site that I mentioned. Would really encourage you to get logged in, set up an account, find some friends, engage in some groups, have a look through the tools and resources on the site. If necessary, we can set up dedicated training sessions to help you get started or help you and your group get started. So please register, get involved, check out what we're offering. We're interested in testing the efficacy of the site, but we need data to do that, and we need, which means we need your data, we need your engagement and your insight and information. So at the end of the day, our objective is to collect data and capture solutions and use this to share these solutions to create actual and sustainable changes. And I always like to finish off with Carly Fioruna's quote. I think it sums it up really well. The goal is to turn data into information and information into insight. So we want to see this one-stop shop facilitating projects by sharing good information and effective tools to allow community energy projects to flourish. So that is all from me. If anybody has any extra questions, feel free to contact me at the EcoProject@cit.ie, and I look forward to the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Annie, for a very comprehensive presentation and some very positive feedback coming through. as part of the chat and Q&A. So if I could ask Martin and Stephen just to turn on your cameras, and I'll begin with Stephen. So thanks to you both for joining. So we'll give Annie just a chance to catch your breath after that presentation. So Stephen, maybe if you could just outline your own work. I know Annie described and put up a definition of community there, but you were building, I suppose, communities yourself through the Interreg 3C project. Can you maybe just explain the groupings within that project and what you're actually doing and what your objectives are?
Yeah, I suppose like it's hard to define a community, and a community could realistically be anything from 2 or 3 people up to a small town or a village. It could be an independent building or a group of farmers. So it really is dependent on geography and the people involved. In terms of empowering communities, I guess collective access to collective sort of expertise and knowledge and the shared interests is kind of what we're trying to foster through the 3C project. So in that particular instance, it's creating the circular carbon economy, which is focused on biochar production. But from a bioenergy perspective and creating energy communities, as we know from the recent 40 by 30 report that was released, bioenergy is a huge role to play in successful energy communities, from the use of wood fuels or solid fuels for provision of heat and electricity, or perhaps through the use of bioenergy in the form of biogas. So in Ireland, I think there's a huge opportunity for energy communities to engage with bioenergy for the decarbonising of community-owned facilities, whether it's schools or nursing homes or individual housing estates for the provision of district heating, but also there's a huge opportunity there for the opportunity to become part of the supply chain and to actually provide the feedstocks that are needed to decarbonize local communities. So there's a huge opportunity, and tools like the one-stop shop, which should hopefully kind of enable citizens to access the information, should be encouraged and supported where possible.
Okay, thanks very much, Stephen. And now, Martin, before we go to the questions, if I could just bring you in, and obviously you've been involved in this EcoProject as well. And maybe from your perspective, would you be able to just give us an outline of what you see as the barriers maybe to community involvement in energy projects, and maybe how this tool can assist on that to alleviate or address some of those challenges?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I mean, for me, it comes down to one of the questions that's in the Q&A: who runs the renewable energy community, who administers it? You know, this is all done primarily on a voluntary basis or by somebody with an enterprise. So one of our partners in the EcoProject is the farming organisation in Belgium. So it is agricultural farmers. They don't have expertise in this area. So I think that is one of the prime motivators for us in developing this platform, is how do you get that expertise out there? So if you're going to engage, we'll call them well-intentioned amateurs, and I mean that in the very best sense, then you've got to support them somehow. So that's one critical barrier. And I think the second one then is definitely all around grid connection. Certainly here in Ireland, it's a real challenge. I think the capacity of the grid and the amount of it which is currently already allocated to commercial projects means that there's very little resource available for communities to pursue. So although there's a slot for them in the res, it's going to be very difficult for them to actually get on the network and actually export their power at any scale. So I think they're the biggest problem.
Okay, thanks, Martin. And just to follow on from that, we have found in the bioenergy side quite a few objections from local community groups to some bioenergy developments, particularly on the biogas side. And we find there's a lot of misinformation and lack of information out there about actually what the technologies can offer and what the actual technologies involve and can do. Do you think this platform could be used as a vehicle for providing that information for community groups to access that and to increase their knowledge and understanding of the various technologies like biogas and others?
I'll start that one. Yeah, that is the plan. I think the other thing that we identified when we were trying to, and this is an early stage, but when we were trying to define what this platform should do, part of it was about horizontal connection. So there's like SEAI have a vast amount of information on their site, but it's very difficult to find a connection. For example, one of the ideal reassurances to those groups that you're talking about, Sean, is if they could get a connection to another community group who have had a successful implementation of a biogas plant, and that's the reassurance that people are looking for. So we any said community of communities, that really is what we're trying to achieve, or that was one of the objectives for what we're trying to achieve, because that addresses those issues of genuine concern that people have. How do I address them? Well, if I can put them in touch with other people who have had those concerns, and the concerns have been allayed in the actual experience of having a plant to operate, well, that's probably the best reassurance that you can provide.
Okay, thanks, Martin. So there is some questions coming in through the Q&A tab. So if you have any questions for any of our panelists or for any or for Erbia, feel free to post them through the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. Just before we go to you, Annie, just two clarifications. And there was a question in there, or a comment, that the one-stop shop name of the platform is confusing, as SEI uses this term for organisations that retrofit houses. So Martin very clearly confirmed that the digital one-stop shop was the name included in the ECO proposal, and therefore had to be retained to meet the project requirements. So it was probably something that you had little control over from the point of view of the name. But just to clarify on that, and then a second clarification, I feel it's important to clarify that of the 7 projects that Annie mentioned, that were successful in Res 1, 5 of those were developer led, and only 2 were 100% community owned. This is now rectified for Res 2, as all community led projects must be 100% community owned. So again, and Annie has thanked that attendee for the clarification, but thanks for that. So if we go to some of the other questions, and I may bring Annie back in, are there fees to join the one-stop shop and seek advice? Annie, is a question there from Aidan?
Yeah, that's a great question. And no, we're basically trying to provide a platform that people can go to seek advice and answer for the questions as needed. But the whole concept of the platform is, and it kind of really builds up this cooperative mentality, is everybody does a little and everybody benefits. So the platform doesn't necessarily have expertise employed, like experts specifically employed to give the information. The information is from other community groups or learnings from other projects. And so it's all about that kind of knowledge sharing between groups rather than paying for specific advice.
Okay, and just another question here, and again, if Martin, if you want to come in at any point, feel free to come in. Is there any guidance to allow community groups to pick the best legal structure for their group? For example, energy cooperatives won't work for RES, as funds have to be paid back to members, but a DAC is limiting as it's maxed at 149 members. So would you have any information on that, or is that something that you would hope to cover or provide information on in terms of the platform? So, Annie or Martin?
Annie?
Absolutely. I suppose at the minute we don't have specific guidance, but it's one of those things it's definitely out there, and it's definitely something we need to think about including. And as I was saying, our library at the minute is perhaps quite small to some people. We've included what we think is relevant. But as I'm saying, we're not community energy experts. It's the people in the communities, and it's things like this where people are asking, well, are you providing this? Are you providing this? This is where we get the inspiration to include these resources, and it's absolutely something we can look at including, because I suppose the name ECO can be kind of misleading because it's talking about energy community cooperatives, but at the end of the day, the goal is to increase locally owned renewable energy, and that can, as the definition said, be flexible in terms of the legal structures involved. So I think it's important to cater for all different types of groups, absolutely.
Okay, and I assume that there would be some community groups that would have got maybe guidance and support around the best legal structure. So the platform, as I understand it, would be an opportunity for that to be shared for the benefit of other community groups.
Yeah.
Martin, you referred to a question there around who administers the renewable energy community. Is it outsourced to a ESCO or local within the community? So, and I suppose that's linked also to a question there about engagement with stakeholders. You mentioned the SEI, Annie, through your presentation, the Sustainable Energy Communities Programme. So the question really is around, have you engaged with the SECs in the development of this valuable resource for communities? So if you could come in on both of those, maybe, or Martin, either, whichever of you.
Well, I deal with who administers it. Again, that's not something that we're prescribing, and so we're not proposing a particular model for how any community will run its operation. There will be, in fact, if I go back to the previous question, one of our partners will be loading up guidance on the legal structure options. So they've undertaken to prepare information on that will be loaded at the appropriate point on the timeline. So when you get to what legal structure do I take, there will be a guidance on that. When you get to the operational point, we would hope to have information. One of our partners is Raise Coop in Leuven, and they have a guidance on community energy, and we're hoping to include a lot of their information, and that would give you, it would give you pointers as to what are the criteria for how you would manage your energy community once it's up and running.
Okay, thanks very much, Martin. Annie, do you want to come back in on any of that?
I guess I'll just follow up maybe on the part of the question where they talked about SEAI and the mentors. So we've been in touch with some SEC groups, and we're kind of interested in understanding the barriers. Again, we talk about understanding where the problems are to try and present solutions. At the end of the day, we're researchers. We want to see the statistics of it, I guess, and that's kind of what we're hoping to do with the one-stop shop as well. But the one-stop shop has been developed as like a European platform, so it's not necessarily being considered from the Irish perspective specifically, but we do hope that there's scope for, maybe there to be, so we talk about the communities going through and using the project themselves, but there's definitely scope for a mentor to take responsibility, specifically even maybe for the project tool or the maturity matrix we talked about. You could maybe have the mentor coming in every 3 or 6 months to update that and reporting back to the group rather than the group taking responsibility. But there's definitely scope for it to be changed. Again, as Martin says, we're not prescribing how it should be used. We're kind of throwing it out there and seeing what people come back with, which is interesting.
Okay, and a question from Brian, who would promote the website in Ireland?
That's a good question.
Any? Yeah, at the minute, I mean, we're not pushing it, we're not promoting it too hard at the moment. In other words, we probably don't want 5,000 users in the next 3 months, because we're still at a kind of development phase. We're testing it with partners within the project. We would really like, as Annie said, to have a small number of test sites in Ireland, which would give us, which would actually pose these questions, and we could pose potential solutions and see whether they really are solutions before we roll it out to a bigger audience. And I think that again, it should be a community-driven platform. So the features that communities find useful, we'll keep, and the ones that aren't useful, we won't. We want to put a rating system. We're currently working on a rating system for the resources, so the top-rated resources will come to the top. Because one of the difficulties with a lot of sites is that there are 40 resources, and how do you choose? In your limited time, as I say, in a voluntary organisation, how do you choose which one to read? So we're hoping that will self-select if we have a rating scheme, and one of our developers is working on that at the minute.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Thanks, Dermot, for your question. Have you got support from the EPA, local authorities, government departments, semi-state bodies for this commendable project? Or is it something that you're working on?
We have applied to SEI under one of their schemes at the moment. So the development is probably 2 years old, and it took us a year to work out what we thought should be in it, and another year to get it to where it is now in terms of coding, structure development. In the next, so the EcoProject will run for either 6 or 12 months. It may get extended due to COVID. And in that time, we will be trying to, some of the features that Annie and I have discussed that are under development will go in, and some more content, and particularly some content. And again, out of today, I'd be very interested if people identify content and say this would be good, then we'll try and find that and put something up there that points that direction.
Okay. Question from Vanda. My H20 project upstairs is currently developing OSS digital platform, but mostly for residential retrofit and Res-E issues. Can we join your network group? So I assume that's possible. Yeah. Anonymous attendee is very focused on Res and has a number of questions around Res. As Res no longer supports the 51 to 49 community developer projects, how will OSS help communities link with developers to carry out feasibility studies for community renewable energy projects, and how will communities find funding for these studies? So I assume that's what the platform is trying to do, maybe link up people through, is that your objective, Annie?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to facilitate projects the whole way through development. And I suppose that's an important feature, is linking with developers. Maybe one thing that we're kind of hesitant and aware of is that we don't want the site to become like a sales pitch, if you know what I mean. We're very interested in knowledge sharing and enabling the necessary resources. So I think we have to be kind of careful so that it doesn't turn into one big advertisement for one certain company, perhaps. And I'm just looking at the question here, and how will communities find funding for these studies is a very good question. I don't think that the one-stop shop will be able to fund any feasibility studies, but will hopefully be able to provide insights and maybe inspiration from what previous groups have done, and advice on grant schemes or feasibility funding in that aspect.
Okay, just a question there, Stephen, again, this anonymous attendee is referring to what you said, that a community can be 2 people. When it comes to Res, it must be 100% community owned. Would 2 people be seen as a community under Res? We're not talking about Res, like Res is only one element of the renewable energy sector. You can have communities that aren't linked directly with Res, energy communities for other projects and other community energy schemes. So I assume you're talking about when you mention 2 people, Stephen, outside, you're mentioning projects or involvement community outside of Res.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So just to clarify on that, we're not speaking specifically about Res, because Res is very defined in how it defines a community, as we have as we can see from a lot of the comments which are coming through. Brian says here, Annie and Martin, great presentation, fantastic website. Sharing learnings across communities will be important to give confidence for new projects. So it's probably more of a comment than a question. Question here from Anonymous. Can local energy agencies like 3C or Codema help develop the use of this resource when helping communities who are interested in community energy projects? So Annie, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's definitely scope to be combining with these energy agencies, again, to maybe produce resources, direct people along the process. And again, and I think it's mentioned in the comment below actually, that the energy space in Ireland is quite different to our European counterparts. So it's definitely worth creating these Irish perspectives and creating tools specifically for the Irish process. And absolutely, yeah, scope for collaboration and combining with these agencies to try and produce the most beneficial resources and help people towards the site to make the best, to help develop their project in the best way. Yeah.
Okay.
If I could come in on that as well. I mean,
indeed, Martin.
One of the key things that we identified as we were developing this was that there is no, I won't call it a standardized way, but even a standardized approach to measuring the stage of progression of a project. And therefore, one of the tools we try to incorporate that Annie gave a brief introduction to is the progress tool. I think, for example, for the SEC mentors and the local energy agencies who are trying to track progress of different projects that they're assisting, then the kind of work we've been doing might be very useful, and for them to evaluate it and come back to us and tell us, yeah, that's giving us an accurate measure, but it means at least you've some consistency across that evaluation, and that's one of the things that we try to achieve.
Okay, just to clarify there, with regard to the two people constituting community, again, that's just something that's come in there. Again, we're not referring to RES in that context. There's a very clear definition of a community within RES. So just to be very clear on that. And obviously, the work of Arbia in the bioenergy space is as bioenergy, and RES is more favoured from an economic return point of view towards solar and wind projects. We're talking about other renewable energy projects outside of RES. When Stephen mentions the two people could constitute a community. So we're coming to the end. Just a question there, and again, I'm not sure if you have an answer, Annie or Martin, but we can comment as well. How will communities sell their energy outside of RES when the new microgeneration support scheme will only pay for 30% export to the grid? So I don't know if that's something which you want to comment on or have any information on or any knowledge of.
I don't think it's my area of expertise, so I'll field that question to someone else who might know a bit more about it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the grid challenge. So, like, we're the electrical and electronic department, and we're involved in trying to engage people in community energy projects. And we actually started with how do you integrate all of this renewable energy into the grid. And I understand the limit that the distribution system operator have imposed at the minute. The only way that microgen can penetrate at a very high level will be if we end up with a smart grid. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard for the operator to manage the voltages on the network successfully. So I think that there are technical issues to be overcome as well. You know, ESB networks have a lot of work to do. I guess if you want to get that higher penetration, so I understand why that limit is there. It's unfortunate, but you know, self-consumption. I mean, the German market have gone through the same thing, where now they're really pushing self-consumption because export is a challenge for the network.
Okay, but I suppose from an economic return perspective, export is very, very important. And I know that when we would have, from an Arbia perspective, when we would have submitted our response to the microgeneration consultation, we would have highlighted how underwhelmed we were by the proposed scheme as detailed and outlined. And we believe that significant change would have to be made in order to the proposal in order for the scheme to be successful. So I suppose that consultation is concluded. The department is working on their scheme around microgeneration. So we just have to wait and see what that will return in terms of what sees the proposal is going to come forward as a result of the consultation, because I think that there was a lot of feedback from various different stakeholders to the consultation, which will all have to be reviewed by the department and incorporated. So just to finish up, I think we've a couple of just comments in the chat. So again, Richard, this is an amazing platform. I explored the timelines and various milestones. I find it very reassuring to find master classes at each stage for each specialization. It would be helpful when the master classes are also available as recorded webinars, so users can take the first step on the learning curve. So it's probably just more of a comment, Annie, is it? Or would you like to give
well, it's a great point. I'll just expand briefly. I guess the resources we have, as Richard mentioned, the masterclasses at the minute, they're set up so that you would invite someone over and they would host the masterclass for your group. But obviously COVID has restricted that, and as well as that, we're quite used to webinars. People are quite good with like e-learning resources, so I think there's definitely scope to expand the digitize, virtualize, make these as available as possible on the website. So absolutely.
Okay, there was a question there. Obviously, we've talked about it in terms of the legal structures, community legal structures. So what I would suggest for the person that posted that question, if you want to get in touch with Erbia, send us an email and we can maybe look into that for you and maybe come back to you and assist if we can find information about the legal structures for community groups, or reach out to people that we know in this space that might be able to provide you with solutions. So if you want to send us an email asking that question, we'll be happy to assist. Just a couple of comments again from Richard. Developer-led for community projects is not necessarily a taboo. The development cost for a solar project could run in the region of 150 to 200,000 euros to bring to RES auction compliant. At that stage, there is still high risk that the project will not be successful. To raise the capital and take on the development of the scale of project is daunting. So I suppose just, do you want to comment on that, Annie or Martin, or even Stephen, as a concluding remark, the outlay involved for some community projects to get even to a stage where they're being assessed?
I'm again not an absolute expert in this field, but I think, you know, at the end, like I started off the presentation talking about our climate objectives, and overall what we're trying to do is increase renewable energy and decarbonize. So if a wholly community owned group can't achieve that, perhaps, you know, partly developer led might be the solution. And as well, I just want to draw back to the definition that I shared. The definition was actually partly or wholly owned by the community is what they consider community energy. So I think there's definitely scope, and I think there's no need to kind of limit it. I know there's probably more to it than that, but that's just my perspective on it.
Okay, and thanks again, Richard, for the clarification. 24 community projects were successful in the last ECP 2.1 grid application batch, and another 23 projects have been identified for review in the next ECP 2.2 batch. And these projects are at an early stage of development, and it's timely for them to have this resource. And just thanks also for your clarification around the renewable energy community is a cooperative, and a cooperative regulation, and the COOP regulation applies these 7 founding members as a minimum. So thanks for that clarification. Thanks, Anne, for your feedback. A great presentation. Will be a very valuable resource for academics involved in community-based projects and promote via this route. And so again, Richard, thanks for your comment. The platform calms the nerves of community members going forward. That's encouraging. And a final question from Johan. Who in Ireland will be key facilitator for OSS and its services once it is fully operational? So I guess that's probably work in progress, Annie and Martin, as to where it goes from here, is it?
Yeah, there's a cost involved in operating, supporting, developing it, cybersecurity, keeping it. Actually, one of the big issues is just keeping the underlying platform up to date so that it's secure. At the minute, we're in discussions with RES Coop, so it is intended to try and keep it at a European level, and then that it would. When you register on the site, you register your project, you choose your nationality, and that then pre-selects from a European database the resources that are most relevant to you. So we're in consultation with RES Coop, who are the renewable energy cooperative representative group in Europe, and they may be able to provide some funding to keep it running. For us, it's a prototype stage. You know, we may end up working with SEAI. SEAI may take some of the ideas and do something themselves. That, you know, the actual long-term sustainability of it, I guess, is something that we still haven't underpinned. And the idea is to keep it free, so it will be funded by some government agency or some European agency. You know, we don't want to put a barrier to joining, and we don't want to go advertising. So your revenue streams are limited.
Okay, well, on that note, Annie, have you any concluding remarks before we finish up?
Nothing in particular. I guess just that I hope people can see the value in this site, and I think Richard put it pretty well, you know, calm the nerves of community members going forward. Hopefully we can be the solution when people are up in arms and getting fed up with the community energy project. Hopefully they can make use of the one-stop shop and we can help with these projects continue to thrive and grow.
Okay, on that note, I'd like to thank you, Annie, for your presentation. Thanks to Martin for joining us. Also, thanks to Stephen for joining the panel. And thanks to all our participants. We had a very good number of people participating this morning and logging into our webinar. So I'd like to thank all of you. I'd like to also acknowledge Teresa O'Brien and thank you for your work from our perspective in terms of setting this up and ensuring it all runs smoothly. So with that, we will conclude this morning's webinar. We're going slightly over time for that. I apologise. And we look forward to welcoming you all back to our next webinar in 2 weeks' time, which will focus on bioenergy's contribution to the decarbonisation of renewable heat. So, or decarbonisation of heat. So that's all. So thanks very much, everyone. And we'll say good day to you all. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Well.